All right, guys. Hey, YouTube, Riven mains, Yasuo mains. Oh, you guys know how I do it. All right, hello, Teemo mains and Master Yi mains alike. I'm the Nightwing coming at you guys with another League of Legends video. Welcome to Way of Life Esports. If this is your very first video, I'm sad you have to go through that pathetic intro that I kind of conveniently just messed up for the day just to have a little bit of fun with you guys. So there's been a decent amount of league news happening. I've been actually watching the LPL. I'll be giving the my thoughts on the LPL semifinals when Fun Plus Phoenix and RNG facing off in the finals. My RNG boys with my boy Uzi and my boy Doinby going at it in the finals. I would love if Fun Plus Phoenix got their very first title, but you guys know how much I like my RNG boys, and they're back on top again, and I think a lot of people are thoroughly surprised that they are, but it really is going to show how strong they become. But I could clearly see Fun Plus Phoenix winning that, and we've had SKT now doing back-to-back titles, TL back-to-back titles, and it'd be very, very interesting to see if G2 could do back-to-back titles as well. But today, we're all going to be focused on the NA Gauntlet, and it's going to be coming up so soon. And I don't really think I have the date for it. When does this premiere, actually? What I'll do, give you guys some extra content, since I should already have this prepared, is I'll go to the LOL Esports page, and I'll just check when the Gauntlet is. You have Friday, September 6th, which will lead into Sunday, obviously. So we have the 4 team set for the NA Gauntlet, and yes, this is your last shot at making it to Worlds. You didn't win the split, you didn't go off championship points. You've had a pretty up and down split if you're a team in the Gauntlet position, where you've had your high highs and your low lows. Obviously, the high highs come from TSM, and the low lows also come from TSM. COG already had their lows in spring, but then already got their highs in the actual summer split. Clutch also the same way, and FlyQuest experiencing the same things. All these teams have had high highs and low lows by the comparable end of summer. Either the table was flipped or the table was flipped back over to see where they were actually going to go. With that being said, let's actually talk about this right now. So the first round is going to be Clutch versus FlyQuest. As you guys already know, I already talked about FlyQuest in depth, why they do have a shot at making it to the Worlds 2019. I think there's been a lot of discussion about where or not these teams will actually make a dent in Worlds. And when you're a third seed from pretty much any region, you're going in as an underdog anyway, based off what happened during the split, and I think that's a fair assumption to make. Now, if you make your gameplay a lot more better, because you obviously are going to be playing in the play-in stage to see obviously where you kind of stack up against at least the wildcard teams, I feel like that is good practice enough. We've seen a lot of teams go through the playing stage and get top 4 world finals at one point. You know, World Elite, Fnatic, G2, Cloud9 all have been in the playing stage, and they all got very, very far at their respective worlds. So you must also have to factor in that this playing stage, if you take it decently serious, you will get better. And wildcard teams definitely do play a lot differently than your main region teams, even though they're not as good mechanically with their players, and their players are definitely a little bit below the good standard of competition. You have to factor in this is still a different team, and they're going to play a lot differently, and they might be able to punish you in a lot different of a way that you probably just weren't thinking about. And most people would say, why would I want to send TSM or CLG after they failed at Worlds constantly? TSM has failed at Worlds constantly. The biggest it's so funny, and it's really actually surprising, is that people say TSM have never gotten out of groups. That's not true. That is not true. That is the biggest misconception and lie about TSM that is still surrounding the League of Legends community to this day. Actually, TSM has gotten out of groups before. They got out of groups in 2014 with their group of Samsung White, their group of also SK Gaming, and I forgot the other group team that was in their group. I think they were in the group with a TPA. It was a TPA, TSM, SK Gaming. Yeah, all the way back in the day when SK Gaming had Sven Skaren. The good old days, right? And Samsung White. So yeah, TSM has gotten out of groups before. So that's a little bit of knowledge I can throw at you. And if you don't believe me, you can look it up. It is in the history books. So I'm not lying to you. And I just hate when things are said that you use them against somebody and they're just not true. But people don't choose to fact check because they just don't actually do that, and it makes our argument seem more valid, and they put more validity into their argument. So when you have TSM, CLG, and Clutch and FlyQuest, I'm gonna start with the weakest team. And that's going to be FlyQuest. Like I said before, I've already talked about them. I think that their strengths are going to come from their top and support. I think Wild Turtles also looked very solid as well. So bot lane and a top lane centered focused team. But Viper also hasn't looked that good. So their big strength would be Wadid and how much he can actually get this team fired up to go to Worlds actually. He went to World semifinals before with G2 and he was looked at probably as one of the weakest supports to play on a premier roster or organization like G2. But on FlyQuest, there's less pressure to perform very well. There's also less pressure in general for any of these teams, so that could also be a good factor to go with as well. And I feel like FlyQuest is the weakest team, and I could easily see them getting knocked out in the first round. I don't really see them doing much. They've had weeks to prepare for this, and they could theoretically surprise everybody and inevitably go to the finals and face TSM. But I highly doubt it. Next team is Clutch. You have them who just came off the back end of a reverse sweep off against Counter Logic Gaming, CLG. And it was a very, very close series to a certain point. Clutch kind of mental boomed, at the very end of the series. You had all the players playing really good. They even almost took TL to 5 games. Theoretically, Clutch should be the strongest team heading into this. I know they just lost to CLG, but you have to factor in they still brought TL to 5 games. They actually was so close in winning their third place match. It's just they need to figure out a way to make it really clutch and actually clutch it out and actually win some games and finish off their series. I do feel like they are the strongest team in the Gauntlet with everything that is around them. With CLG, their strengths come with playing slow, but their strength is playing around what their jungler Wiggly can do. I feel like whatever Wiggly does in the game, as he is their wildcard player, you have to kind of factor in however he's going to be able to dictate the pace of the game. Also comes with the fact of the matter of how they are actually able to play. Power Vivo is a good, solid laner, and so is Ruin to a certain point, but I do feel like that they've gotten exposed in a lot of the areas that we've got a chance to see over the course of the split. And I feel like their strengths are good enough, but I do feel like the clock is most likely going to strike midnight for them when it comes to either their final match against TSM or their inevitable match against the winner of FlyQuest and Clutch. Now, some people are going to ask, why didn't you highlight the strongest points of Clutch? We already know the strongest points of Clutch at this point. The point of Clutch is the reason why I don't want to focus on them heavily too much, was because their issue is not winning games anymore. Their issue is closing out. We need them to close out games. If you want to be that team that goes to Worlds, you can't be in positions where you're doing really well in the game and then you just fall off. Like, I understand TSM, Team Liquid, Cloud9 do that to a certain point, but they don't do it as often as they do. This is not the first time Clutch has done this. Clutch has done this constantly when they have leads. So they have to figure out how to win a game, and they have to figure out how they're going to actually finish a game properly. If you're the one in the lead, you've done everything right. Just finish the game. But that's obviously the harder part at certain stages in the game. So the last team is the team everybody has been talking about. All the drama, all the junglers, all the problems. None other than good old TSM. Yes, TSM is the final boss of the Gauntlet, as they got second in spring. And pretty much if you get second in spring and even make playoffs in round 1 of the summer split of, the LCS, you're guaranteed to have at least the last final spot of the regional qualifier. But TSM's strength rely in everywhere, actually, except jungle. I feel like their top laner is strong. I feel like Bjergsen is still a good player. I feel like all of these players are still good. And I feel like on paper, you still have to factor in all these players are still incredible. And I think having one bad split shouldn't be what people are going off of, because all of that essentially doesn't matter to this match. All that matters is how good they play in this specific match. If you're TSM and you miss Worlds for a second time, and this is what the kicker is. There's no Cloud9 in this qualifier. People have to understand that Cloud9 is already in Worlds. They're like, we're not doing this year. I believe if Cloud9 were here, they would easily win this, but that's a discussion for another day. What's also going to be said is that TSM don't have to face Cloud9. This is essentially the it's not even the weakest gauntlet. It's actually a pretty hard gauntlet. You have several LCS champions in here. You have basically two organizations that literally combined have 8 titles, and I feel like TSM need to buckle down and figure out how to play their early game out, because it's genuinely their early game that they're getting smashed by. They had literally one of the worst early games in the league, second only to, I think, Echo Fox. Like, that's terrible. That's really bad. Like, they've just been all over a mess, but I do feel like with the quality of players, they could potentially have the chance of making it to Worlds. If they miss Worlds this time around, they are going to change their roster. And one of my friends actually asked me why. You failed. Everything you worked for failed. Why are you not changing it? If you didn't change it, you're telling me that everything they did this year that culminated to this point was worked out, and then everything pretty much laid out to this moment, because, you know, things happen. Okay, things happen behind the scenes or whatever, that drama, it's okay. But if you look at it from a fundamental game standpoint, everything they did led up to this moment, and if it doesn't pay off, what's the point of keeping everything together? They had a miserable summer split to the point where the players literally in TSM Legends are saying how badly they've had a bad split. They're not happy. Why would they stay? That's just, why would they stay? You tell me, why would I'm on a team. I had a good spring. I had a horrible summer. These guys are probably getting on my nerves. The community's getting on my nerves. You know, you've had such a rough up and down split. Why would you stay? The actual more question should be, why would any of these players stay going into next year if they don't make Worlds during this year? I just don't see it being an applicable thing, and that would make a lot of sense in general. So, yeah. That's it for the regional qualifier preview. Oh yeah, someone's going to ask me, what team do I think is going to make Worlds? Here's the issue. It's not about sending the same teams, because each roster pans out differently with everything. You know, each year for a team is different. Each roster is different, most likely, depending on situation, obviously. The issue is, I want the strongest team to go, not because we get fatigue of seeing TSM go, and not because we get fatigued of seeing CLG go. And even though CLG has only went for like twice, but that is more than what these two rosters have gone. If you want raw potential that has upset potential, I would say send Clutch. If you want star players that should be able to bounce back and should be able to contend at the highest level, given what we've seen out of them, you would send TSM. It's so hard to choose, but I do feel like TSM has worked on enough issues by this point, but I do feel like you're gonna have to see the momentum out of Clutch. And hey, I hate to do it, but I would send TSM, man. I know people are gonna hate me for that, but hey, I want to send the best players possible. You know, I don't want to send people that are going to be, you know, mental destroyed after losing a game. You know, even TSM, they were mentally destroyed after a while. At least they still tried, and at least they still won some games. You know, there are some games where they shouldn't have won at all, but their mindset was still in the game to win it. You know, and that can't be a thing for Worlds. Now, that might pan out differently, but I'm going to say TSM. I think TSM are going to make it to Worlds. I think that the clock is about to strike midnight for all of these guys, but it just depends on how that's going to work. And who are you going to be voting for? I'm going to vote for TSM. Would you like to use this function? Would I like to log in? Absolutely not. But yeah, that's it. I think TSM are going to Worlds 2019. They make the comeback. They're going to put on a performance of their lifetime. Hey, all hypotheticals, I don't care. My G2 boys and Cloud9 guys are in Worlds. I don't care what these other teams do personally. And my RNG Uzi boys are also in Worlds, so I don't care what these guys do personally. But I'll see you guys later. Bye. I'm the Nightwing signing out, and Wave Life Esports is signing out. Peace.
Hi there, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more stuff.
Yeah, thank you.